Welcome to Above and Beyond Ministries, where we discuss practical ways you can live above and beyond your circumstances and live your dream. I'm Bob Marinick, and this is my lovely wife, Alice. Today, our topic is living on purpose. We are going to discuss some of the obstacles that hold people back from discovering their purpose and how to overcome them to pursue their destiny. In Gallup's 2013 State of the American Workplace study, 85% of people worldwide hate their jobs. That's a very high percentage of unhappy people, obviously, not living their life's purpose, because there is joy in living your destiny that God created for you. God says in the Holy Bible in Jeremiah chapter 33, verse 3, if we call out to Him, He will answer us and show us great and mighty things that we don't know about.
That's right, and we want to call out to God and ask Him, what does He want us to do? Because if we don't know what our destiny is, it's not God's fault. Because according to Psalms 139, when you were yet in your mother's womb, God created you. So even before you were born, He knew the destiny that He had for your life. And He created you and me with the exact personality that He wanted for our destiny. And if we're doing work that we hate and we're not enjoying life, we need to stop and we need to ponder it.
It does take effort to discover our purpose. In Galatians chapter 6, verse 4, Paul says, let every person carefully scrutinize and examine and test his own conduct and his own work to have personal satisfaction and joy of doing something commendable in itself alone, without resorting to boastful comparison with his neighbor. That's from the Amplified Translation. A lot of people are just living by others' expectations for them. They feel like they have a dead-end job, that there is no advancement or future growth in it. They aren't using their giftings and abilities that God gave them. They're just trading their time for money, and they feel trapped because of financial pressures. And that's why we're going to discuss this topic today. We have Keis with us in the studio, who specializes in helping people live on purpose. Ken is the president and CEO of CRG Consulting Resource Group International, Inc., or CRG for short, helping people understand their personality style and to understand others. He has written several articles, business manuals, books, and training programs in assisting individuals, families, teams, and organizations to realize their full potential and to live on purpose. Ken has served clients all over the world, not just here locally. Ken, it's an honor to have you here. Welcome to the show. Great to see you, Ken.
Alice as well.
Awesome. Yes. So, Ken, tell us a little bit about how you have come to the place of doing what you're doing in the industry and traveling all over the world and helping people find their purpose in life.
Thank you. I grew up on a dairy farm, so what I do now is very close to what I do. Not, right? So all of us have a starting point, and I knew when I was 16 years of age that I was called to communicate to others about their purpose, their potential, and to help them to realize that. And so it's really been a journey where I made a decision, bar all the pressure from family, to adjust my direction to what God had called me to do. And that's really to help others to live, lead, and work on purpose. And so that has now been just under 30 years of work. So in the late 80s, I made a decision to move out of the roles that I had, leave my family dairy farm, working in agriculture, and then move into the professional development field.
That takes dedication and determination and lots of courage to be able to make such a radical change like you did. For other people, it seems complicated to know how to do that. I mean, what are some of the obstacles that stop people from doing what you did?
Well, a lot of it is you have to have courage. Do you actually know the direction that you want to go? So a lot of us, as you had said, Bob, in the introduction, you know, in the Gallup poll, 13% of the world are engaged. That means 87 are not, 85% dislike or loathe their job. So a lot of people don't know what they want to do. They know they don't like what they're currently doing, but they really don't have an answer to the other side of the equation, and meaning, What is it that I'm supposed to be doing? I know I hate this, but what's the alternative? So some of the barriers are, I don't know where to go outside of where I am. We have so many cultural pressures. You know, when I left my sales position to start the sales training company, my dad said, what are you doing? You have a great car. I mean, they have a car that's included and you have mileage included. They pay for your lunches. What else would you want in your life, right? And so there's all these cultural pressures. And then when I left the farm, I'm the third generation, firstborn male, Eastern European descent. Was there a little pressure to stay? So when I left, what did they say? You betrayed us. I did all of this for you. And so those of you that are watching this show, you have these pressures, or they're cultural pressures, where the society's expectation, and you know, Alice, you're not supposed to be a minister. You're not supposed to be teaching the gospel. And so we have all these other sort of pressures from the outside that are hindering our path. So one of the things that we each need to do is we need to take control, but take responsibility for our direction. Nobody else can lead your life. Nobody else can live your life. You have to do that yourself. And that, in many cases, means letting go or even saying no to all these other voices that are around you. Well-meaning friends, families. Alice and Bob, you're doing a TV show? Are you kidding me? Don't you have a real job? And so we have all of these pressures from the outside. I just want to encourage people that are watching that really we have to take heed to that and say no to that.
So Ken, why would you say that people don't discover their gift or calling in life?
You know, our experience after doing this for almost 30 years, I had the opportunity to have lunch with Richard Nodell and Dick Bowles. And these two individuals, Dick Bowles wrote the book, What Color's Your Parachute? Between the two of them, they have 80 years in the career development field. And having lunch with them, one of them said to me, I asked the same question. Why, with all the opportunities, do we not have people living on purpose? And in unison, both of them, with 80 years experience, said, Bob, they're not willing to do the work. Each of us, it takes effort to go into a profession, to be a doctor, to be a lawyer, to be a teacher, to be a TV host, to be a speaker. But it also takes effort and intentionality on our part to be able to know where we're going. So when was the last time that people invested in themselves to discover what their personality is, what their values are, all these different items that we measure? Most people that are watching this show are spending more on their entertainment this weekend than learning about themselves and what's important in their gifting and their talents. Because people have not done the work, Bob.
In your opinion, Ken, what would you say, or how could a person hear from God as to what his direction is for their life?
Well, I think the word's very clear about if you ask, you will receive. If you request of Proverbs, wisdom, understanding, that I will give it to you. A lot of time, and for me, my own journey, I mean, growing up on a dairy farm and me making the shift, as we said, Alice, was not that easy. It was a difficult choice. It took a lot of effort and courage. But we have to be silent, but we also have to ask with an expectant heart. God has the answers that we seek, but only if we seek them. I mean, his word talks about, you know, discovery is reserved for the seeker. So we ask, and then we listen, and also the word speaks to us, and people around us speak to us. So again, it's around us paying attention. Are we paying attention? Life leaves clues. God's leaving clues. He didn't create us by accident. In your introduction, you talked about the fact that we all have a calling. Well, if you don't have a calling, if you're watching the show and you think you don't have a calling, then that means God made a mistake, and he doesn't make mistakes. He has, every single person has a calling, an assignment that they need to do. It's our responsibility to get tapped into it. It's our responsibility to get connected to it. So listening to him, you know, sometimes it takes a while to listen. I have to be quiet. I have to pay attention. So those are some of the reasons, Bob. There are many others, but those are some reasons on why people maybe aren't listening to God, or maybe they're not even asking him or expecting him to give them those answers.
So what you're saying, Ken, is it takes faith to, number one, believe that I'm not a mistake, that God created me with purpose, And number two, it takes faith to say, God, you're the creator of the universe. You created me. You have the book in heaven. You have the manual. Will you please open my eyes, open my ears, show me what your call is for my life?
Absolutely. And so for people, again, to take the responsibility to go forward is that their mindset needs to shift to know that God has that for me. If I don't believe that God has a calling for me, then why would I look for it? Why would I even anticipate it? Why would I want to have it occur? So the reality is for everybody watching, is that we want to assure you that God has a purpose for you, God has a call for you, and I can stand in that with confidence. And the fact that you don't know doesn't mean that you will never know. A lot of time when you talk about faith, one of the most difficult places for people to go is into hopelessness. So we really have hope in who he is. We have faith in the fact that he has a plan for us. You talked about Jeremiah. I have a plan for you. Well, hang on, it didn't say some, it didn't say a few. It said, I have a plan for you. The word is for everybody. So that's why it's all inclusive, and that's why our work's so important in that it's interesting. You know, God has a great future for you that's energizing, that is fantastic. But a lot of times people even discount their value, they discount their worth, and that's the enemy talking to us rather than listening to God's promises that he has for us.
I know that Jeremiah 33:3 is one of my favorite verses, and where it talks about call unto me, he says, and I will answer you and show you great and mighty things that you know not of. And so I think in this busy world that we live in, we tend to not take the time to just be still, to rest, to contemplate, what am I called to do?
We get so busy being busy, and you know, as you were talking about the pressures, financial pressures, you know, it's seek the kingdom first, and everything else will follow. But a lot of times you're seeking to pay your bills first. You're seeking to, I got to find a job first. And it's not, I'm not saying that that's not important. Of course that's important. But in the midst of that, can I actually be quiet enough? Can I actually trust him to go in the direction that he's called me to be? I remember as a teenager, I said, I am never going to be a minister. And I left the church for 10 years, really not wanting anything to do with Christianity. And really, he called me back because in my false beliefs, I was really irritated by Christians. I said, you know what, Ken, this is not about you and them. This is about you and me. And so you might have some friends around you. The other one, Alice, is that sometimes we have well-meaning people who put negative thoughts into our heart. When I was in grade 9, my English teacher said, Ken, you're not going to amount to anything. And that's because I couldn't read or write. Well, when I did my master's degree, before my doctorate degree, discovered that I was dyslexic. And so the invention of the computer, so here I am, I've written a lot, but written 3.5 million words of content and 3 books going on to 4 books. And I was told that I would never amount to anything.
Ken, we're going to take a break and come back to that. So tune in as we continue on with this amazing story. Thank you so much, Ken. See you soon.
Are you tired of struggling with the same tormenting problem? Is your life out of balance and you don't know where to start? If so, this book is for you. Discover how to confront negative thinking, overcome obstacles, and create positive change. Don't let the memories of your past overwhelm your dreams for the future. Limited quantities available. Place an order now to get the tools you need to create the life you've always dreamed of.
Welcome back, and in case you've just joined us, this is Above and Beyond with Bob and Alice. We have Ken Keis with us today, and we've been talking about living your life's purpose. We've been discussing some of the hindrances that stop people from discovering true meaning in life and why they just settle for a dead-end job where they are unhappy and dissatisfied. Now, Ken, what are some practical ways that you would say a person can overcome obstacles to fulfilling their call in life?
Well, there are several. And my encouragement to all of this is that when you ask the question, what is your life purpose? For most people, it's just too overwhelming. So practically what we want to do, if I want to rebuild an engine, do I think about all the parts, or do I think about the one part I need to take off first? So for purpose is the same way. What are the couple of things that I can do? So we created a model, what we call a holistic model, and in that model say, what are the pieces that I need to consider to put the puzzle together? So rather than consider the whole puzzle, which is overwhelming, so I'll give you an example. So first of all, we have an assessment called the Personal Style Indicator. Alice, you're familiar with it. And our belief is that each person here is born with a specific personal style or personality, as other people call it. Well, that predisposition, how I am born, is something that's important in terms of the nature of the job or the work that I will do that will be fulfilling to me. Another component that we do, we have another measurement where we talk about what are your core values. Now, when we mean values, these are behavioral values, as well as my value of my faith, or I don't have faith, whatever the case might be. So those behavioral values can help me to make decisions. Here's the problem, is that there's over 40,000 job titles in North America already, and they're growing every single day. You know, fiber optic repair person didn't even exist 25 years ago. So the jobs that my kids, who are teenagers or in their 20s now, that they're going to do, some of them aren't even invented yet. And so we need to be able to take the pieces to the puzzle. We also have a self-worth assessment where people get to understand their value. A lot of times what happens, we talked about hindrances earlier, is that people discount their value. You know what? I could never be on TV. If I took what my aunt and my uncles told me, Ken, you're going to be a dairy farmer for the rest of your life, and there are some people here where you've been told those, I said, no, I need to stand firm and confident who I am, not from a self-centered point of view, but from a self-value point of view. Because if you devalue yourself, you're devaluing what Jesus has done for us. And so I need to honor that so that I can contribute at the highest level. Then there's measurements around gifts, talents, abilities. And so we take each one of those and then we took that in a picture. Many years ago, I wrote a book called My Source Experience, and I am just finishing a new book, and it'll be available. It's called My Quest, or The Quest for Purpose, a self-discovery process on how to find it and to live it. And what I do and break down is that we need to have several pieces. So I take the puzzle pieces, lay them out for everybody so that they can understand what is it they need to do. And don't try to get anxious about figuring it all at once. Can we rest in His peace at this moment to be content? Because there's a mindset and there are character elements that are important for people that are for their quest for purpose. You know, you can't have a quest for purpose and be on purpose if you lack integrity. You can't have purpose if you don't have a positive or optimistic mindset. You know, James chapter 1 is my favorite chapter in the entire Bible. It says, don't be double-minded. Well, if you're double-minded, think, well, I don't know if God has this for me, or maybe I should, or maybe I shouldn't. No, you need to stand firm. Don't be blaming other people. Stand firm in who you are. And now there's this journey. And I did this journey myself in the late 80s, early 90s. I knew I was supposed to speak to people to encourage them, but I didn't know about what. And so I invested 6 months. I went to Mike McManus in Seattle, and I drove 2.5 hours each way, a couple of times a month, to be able to do the work to get clear about what's important to me. So those are just some of the pieces that we can think of. There's obviously more, but everybody here watching is that start with a slice. Find out what it is that I value. What's my personal style? Ask your friends around you, you know, Alice, what am I good at? What is it where I come alive? What are the engaging and passionate things? Because again, our life leaves clues, and am I paying attention to it? And is my glass half full or is it half empty? I want to pay attention to those things. Now, if somebody's really struggling, Bob and Alice, about what they want to do, then get a list or make a list of what you don't want to do. And so if you have to, you can go through the back door. You say, well, I don't want to do this. I'm not really equipped for this. Well, then let's eliminate so that I have a list left on what I can do and want to do.
What you're saying is that instead of being so overwhelmed, just start at square one, take little baby steps, and learn to be content at where you're at and ask people for help to give you clues. Now, with setting a proper mindset, how does a person's thought life or the words that they speak, how does that fall into place, Ken?
Yeah, well, that's another 7 shows is what comes out of mouth. I'm amazed, and I'm guilty of it too, but I'm amazed on how so many people will actually say one thing but really want something else. What comes out of your mouth has power, right? If we talk about Matthew, that the tongue is more powerful than a rudder in a ship. So if I say, well, there's no good jobs out there, nobody wants me, I'm not good at anything, and you fulfill what you're saying, why should you be surprised? Rather than saying, you know what, I am called to a destiny. God has made me for a purpose. I don't know exactly what it is yet, but I know that he's revealing it to me. You need to stand in that. You need to push back or refute other people where they say negative things. I remember at a Christmas dinner, my aunt asked my son, who was 9 years old, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? And he said, well, I'd like to have my own band. And she, in her great wisdom, said, well, what are you going to do for a real job? And so I just got in her face. Now, as we're taping this show, my son is leading music ministry at a camp. So here it is, 12, 13, 14 years later, where he didn't listen to what his aunt said because there's well-meaning individuals. Surround yourself with individuals who are supporting you, because there are many people, as I mentioned, my father or others. Now, my dad was well-meaning. He loved me, but he was dealing with what he knew, not what my heart was. So those are the important pieces where I need to have out of my mouth and my thought life. And you know what? You got to fill yourself with the word. You started with the word. God has promises for us. And if you don't know what they are, how could I embrace them? How could I know them? He shows favor to those that call upon favor or expect favor and open doors for jobs. There are all kinds of stories that all of us could tell about, man, I can't believe that God opened the door for this TV show or to be on the show or to write. I mentioned in the last segment that my English teacher said I would not amount to anything. Here I am now a writer, an author with a doctorate degree. Are you kidding me? Like, no way when I was a kid did I believe that that was possible. So God has something that's amazing for every single person here that's watching the show. You just need to believe that. You need to be speaking that, and you need to have friends around you that are supporting that.
Ken, how would you say a person can develop a godly mindset?
Input, Bob. I don't have my iPhone on me right now. We had to take it out for this filming, but now we have no excuse to access what we're going to put into our minds and what we're going to allow into our space. All the research is clear. If you have input that is negative, such as the news or other items, then that is what you're going to have in your mind. So I have podcasts. I listen 30 minutes to 90 minutes every single day. I've listened to thousands of hours of other people who've encouraged me to be around them. Those people that have devotional times. You need to be in the Word. You can't expect to put poison in your body and then have this great result afterwards. And so, is it encouraging words? Are you reading books? Are you reading content that is really supportive of where you want to go? And so if you look at my library, there's several hundred books that support this as far as the different information. Every morning I spend 30 minutes in emails on devotionals and information that I want to capture, that I have interest in, that I'm called to know every single day. So there's no excuse to be able to access the information because we are so globally connected now.
I am so stirred by what you're sharing with us, Ken. And I feel like there's people out there in the audience that God is really stirring you, that today is a new day for you, and you are going to stop believing the lies of the enemy, believing that you're just second-rate goods and that God went on a vacation and he forgot about you. God has a plan, and God has a destiny for you. And I believe that you are going to be able to hear God's plan, and you're not going to be afraid. You're not going to let insecurity hold you back anymore.
I agree with you, Alice, is that your words is that for everybody watching, there's nobody here that doesn't have a calling or a purpose. So just put that away, start taking steps so that you can take ownership and really engage in man. God's got an exciting opportunity for you.
Thank you so much, Ken. What a blessing having you here today.
Well, it's just been great to hang out with you too.
Hey, our pleasure. Thanks, Alice. So Ken, how does the viewer get in touch with you?
Well, we have our site, of course. You come to crgleader.com, or the number on the screen. You can call us. We serve both ministries or organizations or businesses. And so just call us, see if we can serve you in some way, if it's around finding about your personality or your purpose or your values or leadership or whatever the case might be.
Wonderful. Excellent. Thanks, Ken. Our website as well, aboveandbeyondministries.ca. Feel free to get in touch with us. And before we sign off today, we wanted to just remind you, if you don't already know, that God does have a wonderful plan for your life. It says in Romans chapter 3, verse 10, there's none righteous, no, not one. None of us have right standing with God in our own strength. We've all fallen short. We've all missed it. But we can receive the gift of eternal life through Jesus Christ by simply turning away from our own way of doing things, inviting Him to come into our life, and make a decision to follow Him the rest of your life. Remember to live it above and beyond your circumstances, and you too can fulfill your destiny, your purpose in life. God bless you. See you next week. Bye for now.
Thank you for watching today's broadcast. We hope you are encouraged to live above and beyond your current circumstances. Thank you to all our partners who support us faithfully. We pray you are blessed as you continue to support what God is doing through our ministry. If you are impacted by the show today, we'd like to give you the opportunity to partner with us as we share this good news across Canada. If you'd like to order today's episode or browse through all of our other life-changing materials, call us or visit us online.